Syria's opposition has made a chilling pledge to the country's leader. They vowed President Bashar Al Assad and his family will be killed like Libyan leader Colonel Gaddafi, saying he's lost the chance for a peaceful exit. Fierce battles, meantime, between government forces and rebel fighters are raging on the outskirts of the capital, Damascus. RT Sara Firth is in the city, standing by for us right now. Sarah, hello to you. There are fears the Syrian conflict is beginning to resemble what happened in Libya, and with its uncompromising promise from the opposition, it seems to be coming even more closer to a reality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly you've entered a new phase of the conflict here in the country. You've got a civil conflict on your hands that's just seeming to ramp up all the time, and certainly comments like the ones that have been made by one of the senior opposition figures in the Syrian National Council are not going to help the situation at all. He'd said that Assad and his family would be killed in Syria, that they would be killed like Gaddafi, that they'd left no room for a peaceful solution now. I mean, that's going to be a huge blow to the opposition. Remember, the opposition in this country originally started this movement calling for a peaceful solution, but you've seen over the 10 months the calls for reform change to calls for the president to step down, and now it's very common on the streets of many of these protesters to hear the protesters themselves calling for the president to be hanged. So certainly you've got a very dangerous situation on your hands. No clearer is that evidence by then what we've seen happening in the past couple of days and over the weekend, when you had very serious fighting happening very, very close to the centre of the capital. Now, the opposition member in the SNC had also said that they were going to be sending money and arms to the Free Syrian Army as well. Now, that's extremely dangerous, extremely provocative calls. What he's essentially saying is that the SNC are now going to be backing an armed movement in the country and funding a civil war within their own country. I mean, it's absolutely a very, very dangerous thing to be saying. Now, we've met a lot of the Free Syrian Army that have been here. After the last couple of days' conflict, many of them have seemed to go underground. This group is very, very diverse. It's not known exactly who they are. It's thought a lot of them are army defectors. But, you know, a lot of the people we've been speaking to within the Free Syrian Army have made it clear that they're not looking for a peaceful solution here. They don't want to be pinned as terrorists. They say that they're protecting civilians. But in a talk we were having with some of the Free Syrian Army yesterday, they were telling us about having killed some Iranians who they thought had supported the Assad regime over the past few days. I mean, absolutely, their objective here is not to find a peaceful resolution. And, I mean, so you've got an incredibly difficult situation here that's just being ramped up all the time by statements like that from the SNC. And, you know, it's not very clear whether he actually has the voice of the people there.
All right, now, Sarah, the battle, though, over Syria is shifting to the UN Security Council now, as members there negotiate a new resolution on the conflict. What do we expect from that?
It's very hard to know exactly what the outcome of that will be. What's clear is that there is a sort of push now for this crisis in the country to be internationalised. We've seen the Arab League mission sort of fall flat on its face. The Gulf states' withdrawal was really a major blow. Clearly, there's a very heavy push now for some form of intervention from certain countries. I mean, you've got all these geopolitical interests that we've seen really interfering with what everyone was hoping would happen, which is the ability to find a Syrian solution to a Syrian problem. Now, Russia, of course, has been calling right from the beginning for dialogue between the sides to try and bridge this gap. And we can hear now from the Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, speaking about some of the criticisms of Russia's stance on this situation.
We never said retaining Bashar al-Assad in power is a condition for crisis settlement. We said something different. We said that the decision must be solely Syrian. Only Syrians, all groups of Syrians, must gather at the negotiating table and hammer out a deal. If the demand is for him to go and he doesn't, then what's next? Call in the Air Force? Bombing? We've seen that already, and the Security Council will never approve it. I guarantee it.
I mean, it's very unfortunate recently that what we've seen is that this moderate middle ground, as it was, has essentially been trampled on. You've now got a very, very strong side. Certainly within the country, there's a sense that right now you're either for or you're against. And really, you're seeing the country become increasingly polarised. As I said, very, very disappointing that statements like this are being made, because it's just going to fuel the fear, the genuine fear that a lot of people on both sides have about just where this is going to end, because this conflict is just getting bloodier and bloodier and more violent. And, you know, these calls from the opposition to fuel the conflict in this way are just very, very damaging. I mean, it's very easy for the Syrian National Council to sit abroad, to be in Turkey and to call for this type of armed conflict. Much harder for them to have come around the discussion table and talk to all the sides. Again, for the government, it seemed that they found it more effective to roll out tanks than to roll out reforms. So what you're seeing at the moment, essentially, is this sort of despicable political wrangling that's having a very, very high human cost.